6 simple ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. Number 1, cold exposure. I got into this. It seems like everybody owns some ice bath company nowadays on social media, or at least the people I follow. But cold exposure is great, and I've really gotten into the ice baths. I notice a change in myself. I try to do them first thing in the morning, and I typically stay in there for anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes. I try to get the water up to my neck so I can stimulate the auricular branch of the vagus nerve. But man, I get this. I feel different, and I don't think it's a placebo effect. I feel like a dopamine rush. I feel a change in my mental clarity and a change in my energy. And it really does wake you up, even though it might not be the first thing that you would want to do in the morning. It can also help shift the conversation of the nervous system and transition you from a more fight or flight, reactive, stressed out state into more of a parasympathetic response. But the key to this is doing it, just like with any of these, on a repetitive basis. Based on the principles of neuroplasticity, the only way to create a change in your nervous system is to do things repetitively so that the conscious effort becomes subconscious. And you increase what's called vagal tone by doing that on a repetitive basis. Long exhalations can also help. So when you take a deep breath in and then do a slow, long exhale, what you're doing is you're increasing that diaphragmatic movement. So your diaphragm is moving up and down, and you're using less of a sympathetic rib breath. So that diaphragm movement is going to stimulate areas in the brainstem that are closely associated with the neurons in the neighborhood of the vagus nerve, and you're going to stimulate the vagus nerve indirectly. And also you're going to increase your heart rate variability, which is what the research has shown. Singing loud and proud. I do this in private, typically when I'm in my car and no one's looking, mostly so I don't give anyone else a migraine. But the mechanism behind singing is actually a muscular mechanism. What you're doing is you're stimulating the muscles in the posterior throat. Those muscles, which are innervated not just by the vagus nerve, but also by neighborhood neurons, so neurons that live in the same neighborhood as the vagus nerve in the brainstem, that are going to increase and wake up activity in that area and improve overall vagal tone. Singing loud and proud any time of the day, don't be shy with it. Social connection. So positive social experiences stimulate the ventral vagal system and can improve overall vagal tone. This is based on the work of Dr. Stephen Porges and the polyvagal theory, but I can't tell you how important a positive social interaction is for your overall health and your nervous system. If you find yourself constantly stressed out, nervous, anxious in social settings, even friends, like if you've had friends for a long time, but like they may not be the best of friends, it might be important to find new social connections that are meaningful, that are mutual, that are synergistic, and that really just help make you a better you. So it's really important to engage in those positive social connections, not just for the mental aspect, but also the physiological aspect of stimulating your vagus nerve. Fasting. I do intermittent fasting. I try to do it 3 days a week. I'm not a pro at it. I get hangry frequently. But what you're doing when you're doing intermittent fasting is you're actually stimulating the vagus nerve in a couple of different ways. The research has also shown in animal studies that you're improving your heart rate variability, which is a reflection of your vagal tone. But I've also read some studies that when you do intermittent fasting, you're creating better connections between the brain and body, and you can improve intestinal permeability. Now, I think we're all exposed to environmental toxins through our food, through our environment. And one of the first barriers that are affected is our intestinal barrier. When you have intestinal permeability, what can happen is you can get systemic immune responses, which over time can make their way up to the brain and cause what's called blood-brain barrier disruption. So by doing intermittent fasting and allowing those intestinal permeable areas to kind of reconnect, you're reducing that toxic load, you're increasing your barrier strength, you're reducing the possibility of systemic inflammation, and then you're also reducing that possibility of breaking down in the blood-brain barrier. So it's really, really important. And then transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation of the auricular branch can improve vagal tone. I use a couple of devices in the clinic, two of which one is the StimPod and then one is the Hulist Verilief. They have both a prime and a mini. They're great products, but we do this in the clinic by stimulating areas of the ear and right below the ear. And there's good research now coming out that transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation can have a profound impact on brain health, on gut health, on immune health. So it's something that should really be looked into. And it's a very simple application. The coolest thing I think about transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation is going back to the origins of vagus nerve stimulation. Everything was an implantable device. And when you have implantable devices, if they are necessary, that's one thing. But if you can get by with not having that, it's huge because that's a surgery. It could lead to a device that fails. It could lead to infection. So I'm really excited for the research to continue to show just improvements in overall brain and body health the more that we use transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulators. There's so many other ways to do this. Gargling water is one as well. Gargling is similar mechanism as singing. You're going to improve the function of the muscles in the posterior wall of your throat. That's going to directly stimulate vagus nerve and indirectly other nerves as well. So there's a whole host of things, but these are just 6 simple ways to do it. Thanks so much for following my page, and I hope you have a great day and do something nice for your vagus nerve today.